Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome along to another consultation masterclass. You are joined tonight by myself, Lou, and Dario Cotroneo, who I have over here. Now, welcome back for all of those that have been joining us for the past 5 classes that we've had. We are now up to class 6 of Consultation Masterclass, 6 out of 8. So we are well and truly over halfway. Now, for those of you where it's your first time joining us, these are happening every Wednesday. And if you would like to catch up on our previous classes, they have all been recorded. Just jump over to our Consultation Masterclass series on Facebook or on Instagram, IGTV, and you'll be able to catch up on everything. Before we do get straight into things, if you do have questions, as always, please let us know in the comments. I'll be keeping my eyes on those and I'll be able to feed them through to Dario as we go. He always loves being put on the spot with those types of things. So make sure you send them in. Now, those, because it's been a while since I've done these formal introductions, for those of you where it is your first time, my name's Lou. I am the social media specialist here at Timely, and it's my job to deliver our brand to you, our beautiful online community. Now, I've got Dario over here, and I'll let Dario do a brief intro if you'd like to, Dario, for anyone new joining us.
Hi, guys. So this is week 6 of our 8-week episodes. And tonight, each week we're focusing on really the thin slices that really come together to envelope the client experience. And what we're embarked on doing from the beginning was to really take you on this journey on really how to elevate our game in the customer service experience. And thanks to the guys at Timely for allowing me this platform to be able to deliver this message. So it's been great, been really great. The feedback's been awesome. Our community's responded, really great. So I just think it's this, to create a platform that you guys have to be able to share and collaborate. It's been amazing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, just before we get stuck into all the juicy goodness that we have for you tonight, I just wanted to give you a shout out, Dario, because on Sunday night, for all of those watching, Dario won an Excellence in Education at the 2020 AHFAs, the Australian Hair Fashion Awards. So congratulations, Dario. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that is a back-to-back win for you, right?
Yeah. Very, always very humbled. There's a team around me that work incredibly hard, as well as our community. So when we do win an award, I'm just the face of representing, the company, but also I feel that we represent our community. We're very like-minded. And it was a great night, thanks to the Manor Brothers from M Division, and the AHFA Awards. It was the industry I felt really needed something to celebrate, but most importantly for us in Sydney to actually go somewhere, because we haven't been able to, to actually connect with 300 people in the room, as well as all those, I think it was over 1,000 people were connecting online, and the messages have just been amazing. And I got some credibility from my kids because I brought the trophy home. The trophy's still at home. And I noticed each day it's slightly being moved, so I know my kids are looking at it. So and that's all it is. I've got teenagers, and I want to, I hopefully they think that that's pretty cool. So
of course. Oh, that's so
yeah,
sweet.
thank you.
See it move slightly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we are very proud of you here at Timely. So I just wanted to do a little shout out before we get started, because we've got a bit of a star in our hands.
Thank you.
So tonight our topic is consultation experience, and very, very shortly I will hand over to Dario, who has a presentation prepared for us. A few slides we'll run through. Now, it's all about how to deliver the perfect consultation and what tools you need. So we're going to talk about how to overcome fears of your clients and really getting to understand your clients so that you can reach desired outcomes together. And basically tonight, you're going to become an expert at educating and making recommendations to your client so that you can really nail that end result for them. So let's do it.
All right, let's get this going. Get it up on screen. So guys, so the consultation experience class 6. So we'll go to the first slide if you don't mind, Lou. So we're in the transformation business, and I really love this image here. We've got, you know, one model, we've got 5 different looks, and there's 360 degrees. Why stick with one? And that's our proposition. Everything we do, or everything I do, it's just that, you know, there's always many ways to look at solving a meaningful problem. And when a guest comes in fixed in one of these looks, then, you know, the talented eye of the individual hairdresser that has that that's motivated to see what no one else has seen before and tapping into unlocked potential. And that's why I love education, because it opens the mind up to more possibilities and many different ways to view it. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so what does great hair look like for you? And this is the 2 that I like to focus on in my consultations, whether it be pre-consult, connecting with my guests, or whether it be on the day, is that we either have expensive or we have lifestyle hair. So when a guest comes in and says to you, this is what I'd like to look like, and it's an image, the first thing I do is ask my guests, well, how do you plan to create this look at home? And more importantly, are you after sustainable hairdressing, or are you the type of client guest that likes to come in quite frequently to do this? Because this hairstyle will only be as good as your skill set. So I really put the emphasis on my guest and her ability, and try to remind her that this is a we thing, not a me thing, when it comes to doing her hair, because ultimately she's you at home. And if she looks really confused at this stage, then I'd be recommending that she comes in once a week for a blow dry, and you train her on how to get up to vogue, because that's what expensive is. And if she doesn't want to be sustainable and doesn't have the time to come in, well, that's lifestyle hair. So we're going to have to lower the expectations so she understands that she cannot come up to that high vogue level. So you've got to explain to the client, you give her advice, and after you get to know her and understand her needs. So it's really about going in a little bit deeper, not so surface orientated, and really challenging your guests in a very positive way. So we'll go to the next slide. So first impressions. So when guests come in, first impressions will say a lot about what they can expect from you in the service and what they're about to have. So we have fears. I really like in fears to understand where the client's coming from, and why she's in front of you. What do they like and dislike about their appearance? And if you read between the lines, you'll be able to assess what their true fears are. And this will be easy with strong levels of rapport. And if you sense resistance, use rapport building techniques such as match and mirror and communication, and communicate in her modality. And for those that aren't aware of what we're talking about, you can go back and look at previous episodes, and this will discuss it in more detail for you. But ultimately, first impressions are everything, because we're living in a world of judgment, unfortunately. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so desired outcomes. Desired outcomes, where would you love to be? This is a perfect opportunity. And please understand, these are great quotes to share with your guests. They have such a great intention when you say to your guests, where would you love to be with your hair? So to get your client all pumped up, this is what they'd like to look like. Get them to create a clear picture, feel, and sound of this. So to get them to explain it, when you see them moving their hands and they're moving their head and they're really into it, then please don't interrupt them. Just let them go so we can understand them. Clarify, repeat back to your guests what you hear from them, what you feel from them, and to get a yes from them. Because ultimately, if you recap at the end, they'll agree, that's what I said, and you're creating that yes framework, which is something that we've walked through on previous episodes. And then at the end, I like to educate and recommend. Tell them that you're the in your expert opinion, and this is your moment to shine as a professional, educated coach to the client, because we're much more than a hairdresser. You know, I don't really go around saying I'm a hairdresser. I walk around in life feeling I'm a part of people's lives, and I don't limit my capacity in my thinking as I'm just behind the chair hairdresser. You're your client's confidence builder, self-esteem lifter. There's so much more to hairdressing than just cutting and styling and coloring hair. So we'll go to the next slide.
Just going to ask on this one, under the desired outcome,
yeah,
we question here. So let's say, and I know this from the video that we watched, it was the cutting seminar for those, if you would like to check it out. But what about if you are asking a client these questions and they might say, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a really...
What would you do in that circumstance?
Well, that's very common, because what happens in the salon is when we have clients coming in a coma, they really want to almost come in and not be responsible. And so they'll come in and go, what do you think? What do you want to do? You're the expert. And sometimes clients can actually be quite egoic, where they can actually be quite insulting unconsciously, where when you're pushing back to them and they don't want to work, they might come back in a little bit more sting in the tail with the way they respond and get a little bit assertive. My advice to you is that you reserve your opinion until you understand where your client's at. Because for us as hairdressers, it's emotion of the day when you're dealing with someone on that day, as well as your emotions. And it's really, for me, about understanding what does she need to feel confident over the next 6 to 8 weeks, not over the past experiences that you've done her hair, because people are up and down. You don't know what's coming up for her. And I really like to get inspired. And sometimes guests will come in and just give you little clues that you can tap into. But I'm not one to sort of be a yes person and turn around and go, oh, well, I'll give you my opinion. A cheeky little comment that I make in a lot of my seminars is that, as an adult, I don't go to the bank and ask, how much should I take out today? I don't go to the petrol station and go, how much should I put in my car today? As an adult, I have to make decisive decisions based on what I'm looking for. And so as a hairdressers, we've got to learn to ask better questions to get better answers. And so the answers that we get are only as good as the questions we ask. And so hopefully what you're getting out of these episodes is a really brand new, big toolbox to help you and arm you for many of these situations that you get in your salon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Pleasure. So the three main questions that I ask guests when they come in is, what would you like to look soft and natural or noticeably different when you leave today? So these are really important, because soft and natural is lived in hair, and noticeably different is like the boss hair, so she's going to walk out looking like she owns the company. So then I ask the second question is, how do you maintain your hair at home? Because I want to know if she's going to be sustainable, or if she's going to be high maintenance, or if she's got absolutely no confidence in doing her hair. So these are all opportunity questions. And then the third question is, are you after a sustainable hairstyle, just to get some clarity? Because we're living in a world that sustainability is a very important thing for people. Because when I grew up, it was called wash and wear hair. Now it's called sustainable hair. So it just changed the language, changed the energy, and changed the experience. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so some race to the bottom questions that I really don't encourage you to ask, but I hear these a lot in hairdressing. When I hear hairdressing's quote, color over the phone or online, for me, that's a race to the bottom. And I'll explain why. I find it very hard to generalize. I've seen a lot of people get into trouble because I call it master slave. If someone asks you something and you feel obligated to answer it, well, we've kind of lost control. And we really, I feel as hairdressers, have to take back control of our businesses and of the client and really contribute to the client experience in a very positive way. So if someone asks me, how much do you charge for a color? Well, I clearly don't answer that because I can't see and connect with the person. And so there are other experiences we do where we invite them to come in and connect, or which I'm going to walk you through a little bit later in this presentation, that you can have a Zoom call with your client and really connect online. Then you can quote. But I find people pigeonhole themselves into a corner with quote and recommendations, but you can't see the person. And so I never quote. And if someone gets really angry with me on the phone when I'm doing this, I get really happy because I'm waking her up to how we like to work here. It's not how she's worked in the past. So I'll say to her, sounds like you need to think about it. And when you're ready, give us a call and we're here to be of service, or we're here, whatever you feel natural to you. But it's always positive. Why? Because that's the world you want to live in. I love happy customers. They're not always going to be happy when they come in, but you can turn them into happy customers because you're happy. It's the world that you want to see, and the world that you want to project is the world that you'll attract. And I've found that over 31 years is much more consistent than being volatile and reactive. So another race to the bottom question is to agree with clients on everything. You have to disagree with clients. So I do love saying to egoic clients right at the end, I totally disagree with what you're asking for. And I lean forward and I say, because you deserve better.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've really got to push people. And then you say, well, are you open to hearing what I've got to suggest? And if you're really enthusiastic about it, yeah, she'll listen. And I never ask low resolution questions. Low resolution questions are, what would you like today? Yeah, that's so low. That's so basic. And that's going to make the guest turn around and say the word trim, because a lazy comment will come back to you and you'll do it's a lazy experience. You really want to make it meaningful.
From a client's perspective, could almost leave them feeling a little bit lost as well.
Yes.
With not knowing really where to go with that question. Being so, I guess, open-ended.
Yeah, and it's also like a lost leader. Like you really got to lead by example. And like I said, your answers are only as good as your questions. And if you get asked a really low resolution question, you don't have to answer it. You can answer it with the question you should have been asked. And that is 101. That ultimately, that's 101. Ultimately, self-love right there. I don't have to answer an insecure question and fall into.
On that, I just took a photo of that previous screen because I'm going to the hairdresser tomorrow. So
wow, you'll conduct that one. Well, you'll have to let me know how that works out. That'll be great.
I will. I'll put it into practice.
That's great. That'll be great. Well, that'll be next week's conversation. That'll be great. And one of the last things on Race to the Bottom is that, people don't quote before they start. And I think that's unsafe, and it's leading you to some really vulnerable situations in the salon. There's no way I would ever buy anything in life without knowing how much it will cost, because no one wants to be embarrassed. And so I always ask my guests, do you have a budget for your hair? What would you normally pay? And then I can walk them through at the end what we're talking about, and then I can manage it for their budget. It's really about having that honest conversation, eye to eye, heart to heart, and connecting and building rapport. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so some questions. What are you aiming for? So you have to be aiming at something, as you cannot catch what you're not pursuing. So as a hairdresser, when I get up in the morning, I love mornings because it's a new beginning. It's like a fresh chapter. It's like buying a new life every day. That's the way I look at it. And when I get up, I'm so excited at the beginning of the day because it's about creating new beginnings. But ultimately, I know exactly what I'm aiming for. We're in the when we talk about wellness, we're in that space. We're making every client feel really beautiful about themselves. And that's what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for lifting people's self-esteem and self-worth. But you have to be leading by example with yourself first. You cannot be walking into the salon, or I don't recommend walking into the salon dressing tired, sounding tired, looking tired. Now, I know a lot of us have got a lot of things going on, but you have to stop and pause and really look after yourself. Put yourself first, and then you'll inspire a lot of your guests and your community along the way. So my tip is you have to stand between order and chaos. Not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything's going to be nice and smooth. I think a lot of times in our day when things go wrong, I see people really crumble, and you've got to stand, you have to stand up for what you believe in. And so when a guest challenges you, you have to open your palms up and you have to say to your guest, hey, this is how we do hair here, and we're really successful at it. And all our guests, love this experience, and this is why. And really don't fall into the trap of being defensive. You have to more celebrate how you do hair. And you really have to stand up for what you believe in a very positive way, because that's what you want in return. So we'll go to next slide. Okay, so quoting. So before starting your service, you have to explain to each guest how much the service will cost. And if they say that's too much, then you have to ask the guest what's their budget, and let them know what service you can provide for them within their budget. So I like to use this as an example. It's like the IKEA approach for pricing. You can add more or take off depending on their budget. Therefore, it's all up to being upfront and honest to your guests. You go to IKEA, and I went to IKEA as an early 20-year-old many times, and I'd go to IKEA and go, I really love that lounge, and they'd be like, that's great. And then I'd go to the lounge and go, oh, the arms cost extra. Okay. And then the pillows cost extra. And so all that picture that I was sold and that concept was almost like double the price. But then I bought into it because that's the image I wanted. However, like you as a guest, or with your guests, you can say to your guests, well, what we've spoken about is balayage luxe. But if you don't have that budget, we can accommodate you and work with something that equally looks as modern and keep it really positive. Because ultimately you don't know, like some people could be doing it really tough, and some could be doing really well and not dressing like they're doing well. And I think that, in that world of judgment, we're so easy to judge. But if you're really good at selling ice cream to your guests in terms of making sure it sounds sweet and making sure it feels really great, then you know, you're going to convert your clients to the point where they're going to say, you know what, don't worry about the kids. They can cook themselves tonight. I need this color, you know?
I feel like with this as well, it's really creating that inclusive environment for your clients when they're in there with you, and really making them feel comfortable,
Yeah.
no matter what their situation is. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to digress a little bit, you know, it's very much, I was watching a video today with Timely Pay, the launch, and yeah, it was amazing. And I want to talk more about this, and I think we will in episode number 7, is that when you think about what you're doing as a company for our industry with Timely Pay, it's exactly why we quote at the beginning, because you know, how we envelope our experience, the beginning to end, is so important. I think a lot of us focus on in the middle as far as what we're doing, but how we handle guests with you know, quoting, and then obviously checking out at the end, they're very important points. And I think where we align as a company, from our company to yours, Lou, is the fact that we really own it. We're really responsible in the consultation app and the experience. And now you're going to a completely different level with Timely Pay. And I just think it's awesome for our industry.
Thank you. For anyone, just for a little bit of context there, for anyone that hasn't seen Timely Pay, we now offer cardless checkout or cardless payments.
Amazing.
So, like you do with Uber, when you get out of your car, the Uber, and you just, you know, you walk. It's just really, it's another way that we're able to extend that client experience, I think, like you're saying, from the very start to the very end. So
yeah,
I look forward to talking about that a bit more, hopefully in class 7. Awesome.
Yeah, and I have to tell you a very funny story. My father-in-law, when Uber first came out, he was raving on about Uber because he felt like it was a free service, because he wasn't paying for it. And so we had to remind him it was coming off his credit card, which his wife looked after him. So I thought that was very funny. All right, we'll go to the next slide.
I mean, hey, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if that's what clients felt when they walked out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if a client says that she has been quoted already by another staff member, and this is why I don't quote over the phone, and the price is very high for what you're going to do, then you have to say to the client, yep, no problem, but what I've quoted you for is more work than you originally quoted, and it's up to you. I can do the original quoted price, and that's less detail, or my quoted, and that's everything, as we've discussed today. So give her options. I think it's always important to empower people with options, and keep it clear, for her to see that you're helping her making a decision, but ultimately she has to make the decision. And when people ask me, what do I think? Well, I really ask the guest, you know, I do guide them, but they have to make the decision, because ultimately you don't want to be in a situation where your client feels you've manipulated her in a decision. And anyone that's bought clothes impulsively will always feel manipulated, because they felt that someone was pushing them over the edge, and they can sense vulnerability. And hence why they'd go back and return. I've been in that scenario many times when I was younger. So we'll go to the next quote. Okay, so I love this. You guys are so nice with your pictures. It's a lot nicer than ones I supplied. So a client's budget and a client's expectation. And I think this is ultimately what it comes down to. We all have an expectation, but we all have a reality, you know. And I think, you know, we have to live in that reality. And if people want to go to Porsche and Ferrari of hair colors, well, you're going to have to quote her $880 or whatever, $600, because she'll be here for 6 to 7 hours. And I do encourage you to have that in your price list, by the way, because if you're going to have your guests in your salon for that long, well, that's the Ferrari of colors. I prefer, however, to have my guests come in more incrementally, every 6 to 8 weeks for color, a touch up, so it doesn't look so Jerry Springer. So she's not walking around with a huge regrowth and walking around feeling sorry for herself, because she's spent a lot of money. So she'll come in every 16 weeks and it always looks like a makeover when she walks out. I'd rather coming in for a little tinkering, uplifting services that give her more maintenance. And that could be something that's a lot more affordable for her. So I tend to make that more attractive, getting them in more frequently than having them spend a lot of money and seeing them come in, you know, once, twice, 3 times a year. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so race to the top using loving speech. And again, loving speech is from one of our previous episodes that I've walked our community through. So great word to say is, I'm here for you. So right at the end of the service, to say to your guests, look, I'm here for you. And when you do, as soon as you style the hair and you know, you see your guest light up. I say I do hair for teeth because I love seeing teeth when I style, because that means I'm selling happiness, it means the client's smiling. So I say to my guests, this is a happy moment. I remind her, because people are so lost in their thoughts, I kind of bring them back to the present moment. And I say to my guests, you're really special. You know, if you've got a guest coming back to you, I've got a guest coming in this Saturday that's been a client of mine for 28 years. So I was a little kid in nappies when I first started doing her hair, and she followed me. She drives 2.5 hours now to still get her hair done. And she's ultra modern. She looks amazing. And she is very special for me because she's been supporting my career for 28 years. And I'm very grateful for that. And I like to show them that I'm grateful for that, not only through how I do their hair, but how I make them feel through the choices of words that I use for my guests. So a tip, to keep some mantra notes on your trolley to help you stay on track with your clients. So some of the things that I've walked you through to keep on track that you're incrementally changing is just write some notes on a post-it note or some cards on the top of your trolley, just to sort of remind you each week on how to do things better and change and be the change. So we'll go to the next slide. So if you have a guest on the phone that's been quite challenging and says to you, I don't have time to come in for a complimentary diagnostics, then you can do a Zoom and Zoom with your guests and just do a whole consultation online, 15 minutes aside, that's comfortable for both you and her, and really connect. And then you can quote. Now, as of 2020, I'm now charging $100 for a consultation for 15 minutes. And the reason I'm doing that is that I'm giving guests my IP. And so guests come into the salon, it's 15 minutes of my time, and I'll give them an exact, accurate picture of what we're going to do. Now, I don't reimburse that guest because they're paying for my time and my ideas. Then she has a choice to book in. Not everyone will book in. What I found is clients and guests sometimes come in and just want to get the best concept from someone they feel very confident about, but they may perhaps not have the budget for. And so what I've found over the years is people were coming in for ideas and not booking in, and they're probably going somewhere else and, you know, recommending what they would like in a more, feeling more confident about it. So you could potentially, but you know, I know some salons that actually take that deposit for that consultation off the first visit when they come in, and that's something you can look at. So we'll go to the next slide.
Just on this one as well, to just add on to that, we this year, because obviously of what the world has been through, we actually added on a feature into Timely so that you can create an appointment with a Zoom meeting or a Google Hangouts meeting link attached. So making that a online appointment, a virtual appointment. So it is something that I think the industry is slowly getting used to. Would you say, Dario? It's starting.
I'd say in a big way, and I say in a big way. And I think it's not so much about us as an industry; it's about society. I think society is used to it, and we have to adapt. I've always found hairdressing to be a very slow adopter. I've traveled around the world many times for hairdressing, and you know, I used to go to trade shows in London and still see people putting in hair extensions as the biggest hit item for that year. And I'd be like, whoa, like a lot's happened. Love hair extensions, by the way, but a lot's happened in the world. And so I think this is a great opportunity to uplift our service deliveries so that we can ensure that people remain loyal, because we've got to be the change. We've got to change. This is a great opportunity for change right now.
Meeting them where they're at. Absolutely.
Yeah. And being flexible. I mean, it's all about being flexible, especially this year. So Timely Consult, which is awesome, absolutely awesome. So I partnered with Timely probably about 3-4 years ago, and we Timely developed this app. I partnered with them at putting our Consult app into the Consult experience, and then Timely took it even further and made it modular, so you can now create your own questions. We'll go to the next slide. So when you go into the Timely Consult form, this is what you'll see. You'll see my little Consult app there, and then you can create your own form. You can make it so modular. I have about 4 to 5 different options, depending on a regular guest, depending on a new guest, depending on someone that's a little bit more challenging, because I need to really record. And so when I can look back, I can reflect on the essence of what was agreed and what was the responsibility that I had with that guest. And I think when it comes down to documentation, when someone assumes or perhaps says that they weren't happy, you always go back and look of what you've recorded, and you can have clarity then. So we'll go to the next slide.
I was just going to say on this as well, for anyone that would like to take a look at Dario's form, you can I'll share the link to where you can download this, and it's anyone at all can use it. You can open Dario's form, you can use it yourself, you can make slight adjustments if that's what works for you. But Dario's form in particular, it's one of a kind. It's got a few additional features that are just for Dario's form specifically. I'm not sure if you'd cover those, but for anyone that hasn't seen it, definitely check that out.
Yeah, and look, I've designed that to really unlock a lot of questions that don't get asked. And we have our terms and conditions for our clients in there. It's really important. It's a great one for color, but it's probably for your ultimate experience on someone that you're seeing for the first time and you don't know enough about her. So it's a great one for grabbing a lot of information from your guests, because I believe information's where the power is. It's all about having information. So going inside the consult form, you can really make it modular. You can go in and, you know, put your name, put your email address, mobile address, short answer, long answer, and then your signature. So really it's about you going in and putting in the question for what you want to ask, and then having space for her to answer it in terms of the box that's below it, and then you have your signature. And this is so beautiful to get a client sign off on the iPad. It looks premium and it feels premium. And people, a quick question people often ask me is, does anyone refuse to do this? And I say the answer is no. We've been doing this for now 12 years. And previously it was via paper. Now it's all about being sustainable. We don't use paper anymore. And you know, if you believe in what you're doing, guests will believe in what you believe. But if you don't believe in it, and I've met many staff when I'm teaching that go, oh, our clients won't want this. And it's like, no, don't represent people you haven't asked. As people say, what they're saying is, I would never see myself doing this. Well, I challenge all of you. At 31 years experience, I've had many situations where I've observed someone complaining to a salon. I've been emailed from a salon that we teach what someone's complained about. I've been on many Facebook groups where I see it every day, by the way, on international Facebook groups, where a hairdresser is describing what the client's done to them and what the client said to them. And ultimately it comes down to having a process in which you can record, agree, and sign off together. And that's what's so beautiful about this process, is you now have a tool that elevates your experience for your guests. So we'll go to the next slide. So ultimately, this is how mine looks when you look inside. So ultimately the client will put her name in, last name in. When I finish my consult, I hand my iPad to my guests and I say, can I get you to write down what you understand you're having today? And most guests will look at me like, oh, what am I having done today? And there lies the Dory moment in the experience, because most people are so consumed by our lives and what's gone on before they've arrived into the salon. Most people are so in the future and future thinking. And I really love to be in the present moment and have a moment where we can record and both be present at what we're agreeing to do. And so if my guest goes, well, what am I having done? I said, okay, well, you've got to write it down. Now you can type it in for your guest if you feel like she's going to be a little bit slow on the typing. Because I've seen a few one-finger typers and I'm like, yeah. My hair is growing myself. I'm getting old myself. So the idea is, what I might do is you might lead to your guests and say, okay, we've spoken about getting a lob. So whatever you feel you want to explain in that, you might want to write down having a lob, removing the weight underneath. We've spoken about a blonde color to color the darker. So a blonde color to be darker to protect her condition, and ultimately a treatment at the end. So I usually like 2 or 3 things in there, not like a novel. It's got to be really bullet point. And then what I do is I give it to her. I go, you know, is that what you understand you're getting? In essence, she says yes. She might write it down. I have a lot of lawyers as clients. They love this, people that are process driven. And then I ask them, what would you like to improve the most? And, you know, it could be haircut, color, and condition. Great. And then you write down the quote. You know, you really talk about the quote. So I've got in there 880 to impress everyone. And then I've got 6 hours here to think that I'm going to spend that long with someone. And so the idea is here, I'm being a bit cheeky. The idea is to have, these are templates for you to actually, in your process. And the most successful businesses have a process, because it's about being consistent. And then at the end, down the bottom here, I have, would you like to have a conversation? Would you like a timeout? Because not everyone wants to talk to us. Not everyone wants to listen to us. And I just give people the option, would you like a timeout? Would you like a conversation? And I love it when clients go, they'd like a timeout. And I'm like, oh, totally. I'll put my tongue on the shelf for 45 minutes and we'll be both happy.
Awesome.
Okay, we'll go to the next one.
With that one as well, I feel like so often it's something that people try to figure out without verbally communicating, but it can be challenging. It can be so challenging, especially if someone's a little bit anxious inside. Yes. And to just put that there as a tick box sort of makes it so much less personal and just comes back to, I guess, that objective question, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's not misinterpreting clients' cues, because clients could be, you could have a really beautiful person in front of you that is analytical. And you can have a really beautiful person in front of you that's actually auditory, and they're not going to be visual like us, and they're not going to move their hands, and they're not going to smile. They could be living in a world of anxiety, or you could. And this just brings the elephant in the room out in the open, where you want to actually have that discussion. Because especially if you've just met someone, or if you've got a regular, you don't know if they've just come from a hospital or they've got something heavy in their mind. And oh God, look, when I get my hair cut, I actually don't talk myself. I love it. I fall asleep.
I love it. That is such a good question, and I would love to be asked that at my hairdresser.
Yeah. So, awesome. Yeah. Okay. So we asked the guests, how often would you normally come in for maintenance? And she could be 3 to 5. I have a few guests that come in every 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 10 to 12, every 6 months, or is she once a year? Okay, she could be living in Byron Bay once a year. And so I asked my guests, is there anything specifically, in terms of what she wants me to focus on? And she's got here, I want my hair to look expensive. So I really asked that next question, is there anything you'd like us to know before we start? Just giving her a last little chance. And then once I've got all that information, I hand her the iPad and she signs away with a finger, and then I press complete. And that for me is a summary of how we conduct our consultation. And if you want to see this live, or if you want to see this role played, please go back and watch our cutting seminar that we did with Timely, and you'll see me with the iPad walk her through this experience. And the model, it was no rehearsal. It was completely, we did not have a chat about what we were doing. We did it all live, and she was amazing, really amazing. And that's a type of engagement we want. We want to engage with people. It's not about being right. It's about learning from what people want, or how they want to see themselves. What's their persona of themselves? And if the persona doesn't match the reality, we have to actually go in and help her see what we see. And that's what we've covered in these episodes previously. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so you've got to set clear boundaries, take responsibility for the energy and ideas you bring, and never give them a reason to say no. And being wrong is not fatal. You might be suggestive, and I encourage hairdressers to be suggestive. Always suggest something new, because that's where the future is. The future is about selling an exciting opportunity for your guest. Now, if she says no, that's not rejection. That's just simply a comment. But I see so many people take that as rejection. We have to learn to be more persuasive. We've got to believe in what we believe. And that comes down to education. The more you learn, the more you're ultimately going to earn as a hairdresser. And it's about trusting that experience and learning from those that you need to learn from. So we've got to set really clear boundaries with our salon clients. So go to the next one. So every single guest that we do in our salon, we take a before photo, we take a back photo, and we show them what we can see. And when you show someone the back of their hair, they're like, is that me? And you're like, yeah, that's what I see. And what I do is I hand my guests a comb and I say, well, what would be the most length we can take off? Most people will take off more hair when you show them what you see. But if you bring all the hair forward, it looks thicker. And clients, don't know what it's looking like back there. And you need to show them. Otherwise, we end up doing a little bit of hair off, and they might assume that we've chemically damaged the hair, but it could be from a previous experience. Mm-hmm. So here's how I bring it together. At the end of every experience, I walk my guests through and I say to them, okay, so this is where we started the journey today on the before photo. And I slide to the next picture and say, this is where we're ending the experience today. So you can see the really big transformation that we performed on you today. Now that's taking it to a really high sophisticated level. Most people are sitting in the chair for 2 to 3 hours getting a color And she might be thinking at the end, I was wishing for it to be blonder. But when she sees the before photo, she's going to go, wow, why have I left it this long? It's about having the evidence. So we'll go to the next slide. So a summary and a recap. So ask your guest right at the end for her phone and press record. Ask her to press record because it's personal, and get her to hold it and face it towards the mirror so she can take you home with her in her phone. This is when you summarize your beauty and styling advice and product use for her to use at home. Awesome. This will include how to maintain her look so she gets the most out of the experience. So this means that you're only saying things once. You're showing her where her hands have to go to energize and activate the cut, where the products have to go to make it sustainable, and what you're using, why you're using it. It takes anywhere from 20 to maybe 30 seconds. And to help her. And right at the end, you don't say, do you like it? Because that's a low resolution question. What you say to her is, you look amazing. It must feel amazing, because you can feel the chemistry because you've created it. And at the end, what you want to do before you hit the end button on record is you want to get her smiling and going, yeah, I love it. And then she can remind herself when she wakes up tomorrow and she doesn't feel so great, before she sends you that email, she'll be playing that, saying, well, actually, I did love it yesterday. And she'll think about how responsible she has to be. Okay, so it's about having that evidence. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so we go to before service. So ultimately what happens here is, once you've finished, and this is really important, once you've finished your whole experience with your salon guest, you have to ultimately come back with your iPad and you have to walk your guests through as far as, okay, so looks amazing. And we have a code in our salon. We talk in code. I don't talk so obvious. It's always very positive. So we may say, the staff may say, Dario, I really love this cut. That means I've got 90 seconds to get over and close out the experience. And so you'll come downstairs, and we've got a 2-level shop, and I'll go, okay, Mary, so it looks amazing. Let me give you a recap on where we went, or what we endeavored to perform on your hair today, or whatever language feels comfortable for you. And I show her the iPad from our scope of work. So a haircut, a lob to remove weight underneath, how does that feel? And I say words like feel if that's her modality. And if we've got a blonde, we've colored the blonde darker to protect your condition. She's now reminding herself, because she might be thinking, I wish I went lighter, but she's realizing what she's agreed to. She'll go, bang, wow, okay. And we put a treatment in your hair, so how does that feel? And she's like, great. So we're reminding her that we're following a script that we've both agreed to. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide.
Awesome. So this is that one that we're on now is the script that we came up with before the service.
Yes, yeah. So ultimately what happens right at the end for the sign off, and guys, this is probably the most important aspect of the whole experience. You can have one app. So you can create one modular experience with just this on that page as one of the service sign-offs. So you might be doing haircuts or colors, and you might get everyone to just sign off right at the end by just doing this. That's how express it can be.
One consultation form, which is just a single page.
Yeah. And just really, so every client, so what we do at the guest, once the guest goes, because we used to go high five, now we go elbow at the end, but we're happy. We're selling great energy at the end, because we are selling happiness. And we say to the guest, we hand her the iPad and say, look, if you feel like we've met the brief, I'll get you to sign off that you're happy with it, and sign off with your fingers. And that will conclude the experience today. And that's, for me, guys, is how we service people on a really like 6-star hotel experience. Now, you could be a little salon in a country area, and you can give your clients a world-class experience. You don't have to be charging a lot of money. You want to be giving people so much value that they're willing to give you more, because you're giving them more. And when you're getting to a point that you are so booked out, well, the universe is telling you, well, it's time to up your prices, because you deserve more. And that's really how it works. So we'll go to the next slide. Easy. So once you've completed everything, it's really easy. We'll go to the next slide. And so ultimately what happens here, if you're a timely customer, it'll just go straight into the uploading into the client's file. It's really important. And I'll give you this, and just before we go, I'll give you this scenario. I know we're going a little bit over time tonight, but I will give you this scenario. We had a girl fly from Perth to get her hair done. I think I've mentioned in one of these sessions, and she said she wasn't happy with her hair a week later. And we pulled out her consultation form, and we explained that she ticked that, she wrote down she wanted layers, and we said, well, it sounds like it's more educational and we need to teach you on how to do your hair at home. So she came in and we, in 90 seconds or around about that, all we did was flick her hair from one side to the other and taught her, which is her off-duty side, on-duty side, and how to look like the boss. And we were holding her phone, recording it, so she could take us home with us again. And we asked her, what has she learned? She goes, I really love my hair. You know, and but because we had the evidence that it was called change of mind, it wasn't actually that we did anything wrong, but I still wanted to connect with her. I didn't want to say I was right and you're wrong, because ultimately we want these people to come back. We don't want to be losing people by firing people we don't need to fire. And that becomes egoic then. And we don't want to be egoic. We want to embrace as many people in our community that support our business. So we'll go to the next slide. So if you're a Timely customer, you can link it, you can save it into your Timely profile. If you're not a Timely customer, you can save it on the device, you can mail it to yourself, you can message yourself, you can airdrop it to yourself. But it's about retaining the information, which is very important.
Nice. And this one as well, if you do ever need to send it to your clients, you've got that super, super easy to, you know, if they're right there with you, airdrop it, email it, whatever you need.
Yeah. And I love transparency, by the way. It's not about, do you show the client? It's actually, well, it's transparent. It's not about being right or wrong. It's just saying it is what it is. That's what we agreed. Okay. Let's go to the next slide.
Woohoo!
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, guys, next week, just before Lou jumps on, next week is so cool. It's about before and after care. I'm so excited to present this, because that will start to envelope the experiences we've been walking you through. And we're getting to the pointy end in terms of really making sure that we level up. And ultimately, 2021, we want to be changing. COVID's given us a great opportunity to change and adapt, and also include really pivotal things in our business that's going to really help our guests feel safe, and most importantly, feel like she's with the right business and person doing her hair. Really professional. So thank you so much for this session tonight. I'll hand it over to you, Lou.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dario. That was amazing. So for everyone that is keen to come to next week's class, so class 7, exact same time next Wednesday on Facebook Live, and that will be for before and after care. Now, just before we wrap up, a few other things. I'll bring us back.
Yeah, you saw my face.
So just before I wrap up, we also have 2 other sessions together, Dario and I, over the next 2 Sundays. So this Sunday coming up, the 15th of November, we have a one-off consultation steps seminar. This one, Dario is going to work through his unique method and steps for delivering the perfect consultation. So we'd love to have you join us. That will be at 7 p.m. Australia Eastern Time, 9 p.m. New Zealand time, over in the UK, 10 a.m. If I'm getting that right, which I think, I'll double check that. And we've got an event set up for that as well on Facebook. And then on Sunday, the 22nd of November, we have a one-off hair psychology seminar. And so that there is where Dario is going to share a bunch of insights around hair psychology and his personal approach to get the best response from your clients. So we would love to have you join us. The events will be posted on Facebook, and yeah, that's us. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you soon.
Thank you.